Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Marketing Matters Show, the show where we cover everything digital marketing. I am here with my co-host, Daniel Alvarado, CEO of AdClicks, and today I am excited about a very special guest we have in the show. His name is Chip McGraw. He's the president of McGraw Digital, and he has years of experience in the industry. We actually got to meet each other in person a couple of months ago, and he's been working with us for a while as well. So excited to have him here. We're going to be covering a lot of things related to data-driven marketing and the importance of data in general for digital marketers nowadays. But before I jump into the questions, Chip, thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to talk to you guys about such an interesting and important topic in today's digital marketing world. So great to be here with you and looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. And Chip, before we jump into the questions, our audience always wants to know a bit more about our guests. So why don't you tell us a bit about what you've done, what your experiences in the industry, what McGraw is currently doing right now, and some of the things that you have learned in the past couple of years in this industry?
Sure. Well, I mean, me myself, I'm a little bit of a serial entrepreneur, and I've owned several businesses throughout my career. I've had a few exits from businesses, and currently own multiple businesses. So really, we got into the marketing realm out of necessity for really marketing some of our own businesses and doing things that we've been doing over many years, which turned into the opportunity to have a full-blown agency and then offer our expertise and services to other companies. We really got started in a long time ago in direct marketing through call centers, and we were selling products and services over the phone. And obviously through that, a necessity was born to understand data analytics, lead generation, and ultimately creating first-party data and data that was compliant for us to not only telemarket to, but email and do other direct marketing tasks. McGraw itself started out as the Group International. We've been in business since 2009. And a few years ago, we decided to remarket as just McGraw. Our website's mcgrawnow.com, and we are a HubSpot solutions partner, and we also are a data provider. So not only do we offer full service marketing agency services, we help our customers manage and work on their tech stacks, primarily in HubSpot, and then we help them with what's called inbound marketing. And we also provide our customers with different data sets and with lead generation on a cost per lead basis, cost per call basis, as well as running full-blown marketing campaigns for our clients. We also have a BPO where we offer call center services, back office, and things like that. So we really like to position ourselves, and we believe to be an end-to-end solution provider for most of our clients. Anyone trying to scale their sales and marketing of their business. We are a growth agency. And so what we do is we like to come in and help our clients, whether they're a startup or, well-established business looking to scale to the next level. We come and bring them a 12-month plan to help them scale and build their business and to reach their ultimate goals, what they're trying to do with their sales and marketing and their revenue targets.
That's awesome. Thank you for that context. And it definitely seems that you have the entire funnel covered, which is great because I'm pretty sure you've really seen the full evolution of data as first-party data and third-party data within the digital marketing world. Why would you say, data-driven marketing is such a hot word right now? Why would you say it's such a popular topic? We know there's been a lot of changes in regards to how we collect data, Google's algorithm, the cookie deprecation, all those things. But why would you say it's becoming such a hot topic now? Well, we've known for a while the importance of data in the digital marketing world.
Well, I think first and foremost, if you have the data, that's a real quick way for you to increase your ROI or improve on your ROI, as well as speeding up, obviously, your ability to generate revenue. So when we talk about data, a lot of times, and there's a couple different ways of looking at this, in my opinion, but first and foremost, if you have the data of your audience, one, if you can pinpoint who your audience is, and you have the PII of those particular individuals, what makes it a lot easier to target them through digital marketing, right? Whether you're using a custom audience or a lookalike audience, or you're using data to drive marketing campaigns, whether that be through telemarketing or direct mail or various different ways of reaching that particular audience. So that's one aspect of data to generate leads or inbound marketing. And then the other aspect is, if you can have the actual analytical information, the analytical data on where your site visitors are coming from, who's visiting your site, how they're visiting your site, what keywords they might have used in order to find your ads, various different information that you can then use to retarget not only those particular individuals, but then look for other individuals like them that could be a good audience for your product or service that you're trying to sell. So ultimately, what are we trying to accomplish? We're trying to shorten sales cycles. We're trying to improve on cost per acquisition and return on marketing investment dollars. So I think that's a really important factor of data. I think now more than ever, utilizing AI and many other types of software that can help companies more efficiently analyze that data is even going to make it even more important. Now, obviously, then you've got the environment with various different regulations, with things in Europe and Canada being a little bit more on the forefront of consumer protection and dealing with those particular initiatives to protect consumers, not only their identity, but also, how that they are marketed to. And then we've got stuff in the United States like TCPA compliance, Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Those are all things in a landscape that businesses have to be cognizant of today to be able to know how and when they can contact individuals, if they are doing outbound marketing through telemarketing, email, and obviously the collection of data and personal information of people is on the forefront of the protection of consumers and the legislation that's being passed by governments. So all of that is extremely important. And then obviously that is driving the changes in collection of PII, cookies, and other things that we're all having to deal with within digital marketing and direct marketing.
Right. I just want to kind of circle back here to the importance of data before we kind of head into the challenges. So I just want to kind of backtrack a touch. One thing that I think is actually really cool and that makes you kind of an awesome guest to have is I think you guys just recently released an ebook around enhancing data quality. Is that right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that the ebook talks about in terms of enhancing that data quality? And what are some of the suggestions, for example, that you have seen kind of pay the most dividends when it comes to having the right data? Because at least in our experience, and this is something that especially happens nowadays, in my opinion, which kind of also ties nicely into the challenges, is there's also an excess of data today, right? And I think that there's a lot of different analytical tools. You have obviously the free ones like GA and, other information from like Microsoft, Clarity, and things along those lines and stuff that you can get. And then also from each individual provider if you're doing advertising, right? So there is some sort of an excess of data to a certain degree sometimes. So what are some of the challenges that you see in terms of data quality and making sure that the data you're ultimately making the decisions on is a little bit more in lines with what should be?
Well, there's a couple different things to consider there. I mean, when you talk about data quality, a lot of what we talk about in data quality is one, the collection of people's personal information, right? When you're building a database internally that you're going to market to, remarket to, retarget, et cetera, when that data is coming in, let's say it's self-reported and you're driving traffic to forums online, whether that be through Google AdWords or paid media or SEO or however they're landing on your site and you're collecting their information, which is typically self-reported, the individual is putting that information in. So one, when you're bringing that information in, typically that's going to be brought in through, it could be collected in a Google Doc or it could be through an API that ultimately is going to land into your CRM. It's really important that you have a cohesive way of collecting that data internally and that you have the data quality of the physically how it exists within your database, right? Then there's the idea of, is that information accurate and correct? Are those postal addresses correct? Are those email addresses the right ones, or are they valid? Are those phone numbers valid? So we have a lot of different software and things that we do to help our customers scrub that information to ensure that the information that they're collecting or that is being reported by certain individuals is accurate, or if you're receiving leads from a provider And we want to make sure that we check the validation of that information that's coming in from those maybe third-party lead providers, right? So that's one part of that. Then there's enhancing existing databases or enhancing data that you're collecting from self-reported individuals. So we also have the ability, and what we do for our clients is we do what's called enhancement and gap filling. So that could be whether you have an existing database or you want to do that in real time as that data is coming into your database. We have the ability to ping that data off of other databases that typically are aggregated from online and offline sources that have been validated already. And so we're able to then fill in the gaps. That's exactly what gap filling means. Like, as if you don't have an email address, can we then provide you with the correct email address? Or has someone's physical address changed? Can we provide you now with an updated address from those people? So, and then same with, phone number and email, et cetera. So part of that is, the cleansing process of making sure that you have accurate data within your database, right? And then I think the other thing about data quality is in your reporting. Okay, so when you are bringing in analytical data, whether that be from sales activities, marketing activities, anything that you can collect information on or activity that's happening, making sure that that data is, that one, you're pulling in the right data, the right metrics, and then two, that you're doing that in a way that enables you to then report back those activities correctly into dashboards. And that's a lot of what we do in HubSpot, is creating that information so C-level people or managers can then track the activities of what's going on, whether they're managing, their ROAS, or they're managing their ROI of their marketing dollars and spend, tracking back, where those leads came from, where those site visitors came from, so that they're correctly targeting, marketing dollars in the future and constantly optimizing those spend of marketing dollars. Or is it the data that you're collecting from the activities from your sales team, your closed deals, tracking that back to not only who closed the deal, the life cycle of that lead, how long they sat at each stage of that sales cycle, then where those leads actually came from, so that you can go back and say, hey, was that conference that we did in March in Vegas, the leads we collected there, we spent $40,000 to be at that conference. How many deals did we close out of that conference? Tracking those leads back on the life cycle of them, or that lead that came from XYZ landing page that we were running this Google AdWord campaign from, not only which Google AdWords were, the actually keywords that we tracked back to understand, where we need to spend dollars on particular keywords, but not only, hey, this keyword here generated a lot of leads, but we didn't get any closed deals off it. This other keyword, didn't generate as many leads, but every time we got one, we closed one from it. So where do we need to look at generating, those leads? Is it spending on keywords that close deals, or is it spending on keywords that just produce traffic, but maybe not the right particular buyer of our product or service, right? So I think all of those kind of data points, collecting that data, making sure that you are tracking it back correctly, and then obviously pulling in the correct information, so thinking about how that needs to lay out for your dashboards, for your reporting, and what are the goals and objectives of those marketing campaigns that you're running, and making sure you're tracking that.
One thing you mentioned, Chip, was about, having third-party tools and relying on third-party tools to help you throughout the process. What are some of the tools that you guys have used throughout, this entire journey, from collecting data, cleaning data, crunching the data, analyzing the data, and then reporting it? What are some of the tools that you guys use that you think would be beneficial for other agency owners to know, to test, to have, and to be able to actually get the true value out of the data that they have? Because like Dan mentioned, nowadays, because this has been such a hot topic now, yes, agency owners are trying to collect more data. They're buying data, but in a lot of cases, they don't really know what to do with it. Sometimes they have a data scientist in-house that gets, takes care of a lot of the process, but a lot of them still have to rely on certain tools to be able to get something out of it. So which are some of those tools that you would recommend, based on your experience, that would be helpful for some agency owners?
Well, I can say, like, for us, HubSpot's been paramount as a tool for tracking that. And that's really where most of our activities, really, we rely heavily on HubSpot for a lot of those things when it comes to tracking the data that we need, the analytical data that we need to understand marketing and sales activities. And is it working out for us in our goals and objectives and tracking costs and conversions? When it comes to tracking, CallRail has also been a very important piece of software for us, especially when we're running click-to-call campaigns using Google AdWords or Bing. So, and the reason for that being is that when we're wanting to push phone calls inbound from Google campaigns, from search PPC, we want to know pretty much in real time, or as close as we can to real time, what keywords those particular calls are coming from, and then tracking back to the sales from those actual clicks, right? So CallRail has been great for inbound call tracking and for, working, to maximize and optimize call, like spend ROI with Google and Bing campaigns. There's a lot of other tools that we use internally. Some of them have been proprietary to us, but and stuff that we help our clients with. Various different AI tools. I'd say Fireflies. If you're not using something like Fireflies.ai today, it's a great tool. You're really able to dig in and search back for various things that might have happened in a sales call or even on this particular meeting, right? So that's been great. Gong, very similar to that, is a great tool when doing a lot of call tracking and trying to analyze parts of the sales process in phone calls. But I'd say those are the main things that we're using today that really help in our sales and marketing efforts. I know that you guys have a lot of stuff that you're using as well. And I'm sure other people on my team could probably elaborate more on that, but those are the ones that I'm using on most days.
Absolutely. I have a question on the CallRail side. Like, so do you find nowadays that there's still a similar amount of call volume for the businesses that you're running campaigns for? Do you see more of a trend of text messaging and, chats, or is it still very much heavily on the calls?
Well, I mean, specifically, for our clients or some of our businesses that we own, we are pushing ads that will encourage a call over a form fill.
Okay.
So it's really about how you're positioning that ad and what is your call to action. And it depends on what our desired outcome is a lot of times, and what our client wants and how they're set up in their sales process. So oftentimes, look, if you can have someone on the phone, you're far more likely to close someone or to get your desired outcome from an inbound call than you are to someone that filled out a form. Then that piece of data had to come into your call, into your calling platform or to your CRM, where then obviously you're going to have a series of actions that then take place, automations, hopefully, if you're running your business efficiently, that lead's going to come in. Maybe it's going to be a text message. Hey, thanks for your inquiry. Looking forward to speaking to you. Look out from a call from 555-1212. Maybe the second action is an email. Maybe the third one's an automated RVM that you're hoping is going to create an inbound call, or it's going straight to your inbound queue. It queues up an outbound call from a call center, or your sales staff, or your BDRs, or whoever. So, I mean, you can cut out a lot of that by just creating an inbound call, right? But then it really is, there's some stuff there from consumers, and some consumers prefer to fill out a form in hopes that really they don't want to get on the phone. Their hope is really that they're just going to get some email sent to them with further information because they might just be kind of investigating. But then you've got other consumers, or maybe it's a business being a consumer in the same aspect, that really want to talk to someone right now, and clicking and making a call is a better action for them. So I think you have to run both, depending on how your sales team is set up. But if you're really trying to go an omni-channel approach, I would encourage people to run A/B testing on both and see how your target audience most likely wants to interact with you. Is it from a call perspective, or are they preferring to get information first and that they want to maybe then initiate a call later, or, you can follow up. The downside, and now there is some technology out there that helps you, including CallRail, to gather this information. When someone does a click to call, they're obviously not filling out a form, right? So they didn't fill out a form. So you're not capturing their PII necessarily. So it might be more difficult for you to follow up later, if that call dropped or, your rep forgot to fill the information out of who they were. There's also some technology there also offered by CallRail and some other technology similar that will help you to capture that PII based on their IP address, and them hitting your landing page. You need to make sure you have the right disclosures on your landing page and websites that allow you to contact those people and allow you to collect their information that way. And it's not going to necessarily be as accurate as someone giving you their phone number. So, there's different schools of thought there, but I would encourage people to do A/B testing and see how their prospects, their target audience, most like to interact with their company.
I have a question, Chip, and following up on what Dan said in regard to the way things are changing and how we're collecting data. Where do you see data collection in the next 5-10 years? Not only in regards to how people interact with businesses and how we capture the data there, but also more in regards to regulations and privacy policies and how that is evolving. Because if you look at the bigger picture, it does feel that it's getting harder to collect first-party data. It's a harder process. So data obviously now has more value, but it's also harder to get your hands on quality data. So where do you see that going in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, it's definitely going to get more difficult, and the environment from a legal perspective is going to get stronger. I mean, if you look at where things have gone in Europe and Canada, for example, I believe that in the United States, it's probably going to start moving that way. I'm not as familiar with the laws, when it comes to Latin America and some other countries out there, but I think it's on the forefront of everybody's mind, right? So, for an example, I think for an actual brand or a company who is collecting information on their own sites that they own that are branded to them, and if their advertisements are branded as that same brand, I don't think they're going to have too many problems when it comes to utilizing that information for text, email, etc. Because it has to be the whole point of these new laws and what's coming out to protect consumers is you need explicit consent that your company, that your brand has the right to contact them. So the collection of cookies or collecting their PII from their IP address, things like that are kind of like, hey, by the way, there's this privacy policy, buried it in the hidden page 15 spots down on my website that says, if you came here, I can blow up your telephone for the rest of your life until you tell me to stop. I mean, I think that those are things that, legislation is looking to stop. And I think what most consumers are looking to avoid, right? So I think that's where the problem lies. And if you're a company that is, putting out offers and truly generating inbound marketing where people are saying explicitly, hey, here's my information and I would like to hear from your company, you're never going to have an issue. You're never going to have an issue. But, a lot of the marketing that's been done and that how we generate a lot of leads as well, I mean, we're part of that, is that, having many different brands listed on partners pages to cover TCPA and other compliance around contacting consumers, on a website that doesn't have a true brand or is maybe somewhat generic, but listing a whole bunch of companies that then have the right to contact you. I think that's probably the years or months of that being, legal is probably numbered. For example, we do some work in Canada, and in Canada, the way it works is there's one of our partners up there. They're a big advertising company, and they basically have a network of consumers. They have these different basically channels. One of them's like Canada's number one baby. One of them's Canadian homeowners. One of the various Canadian pet owners. And, basically they're out there providing content and value to people within those audiences. And then they're collecting that information and obviously communicating with those audience based on the things that they said they wanted to be communicated on. Like, hey, I'd like to get information about, my pet, or, the next best thing about pet care, or, hey, I'd like to get information about, my child or my baby to come, and things like that. And so what they have to do there is they have to actually email out to their audience that's already agreed to get contact from them. And then they have to explicitly ask them, hey, are we allowed to send you offers about Huggies diapers? Yes or no? Then they say, yes, I'd like to opt in to receive offers only from Huggies. So then after that, they're able to go to Huggies and say, look, our audience said they'd like to hear from you. We have people that have opted in. We can now run a marketing campaign for Huggies to these individuals. So it's really just about explicit consent. And I think that's where it's all going to go. So, I'm sure that there'll be technology that'll come out to help, manipulate and to go around some of those things. I mean, that's always part of it. And it's a moving target, but it's important for marketers to always be on the forefront of what's going on with this legislation in the area where you're marketing to, and to understand the laws and to make sure that you're following them, right? I mean, that's what it really comes down to.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, the important part for the average business is going to be to have a very well set up opt-in process, right? So as long as you have that taken care of, you're going to be pretty much okay.
Right.
So, for those businesses out there that still don't have like their cookie opt-ins, or that on the forms they don't have some check boxes like I agree to be contacted and things like that, it's just very subtle changes into your contact forms and things of that nature. Of course, if somebody initiated a call, you have to write the call back and things like that. So, all of those things, as long as you have that in place, it should be fine. It's of course unfortunate that it's still very, very often that you'll see some businesses that haven't really taken those initial steps, and they're still kind of stuck in their own ways. So, speaking of challenges that you face, is you're very well versed in everything that has to happen in terms of like the implementation of a CRM, so that you can capture data and then passing that over and analyzing your ROI and your performance marketing. There's a lot of moving parts in there, and it sounds like you guys have a pretty good engine for making that work. And a lot of that, it's kind of on you guys, right? On the implementators and the strategy. How familiar are clients with everything that you do, and how often do you find yourself having to explain the value of this data collection process? How familiar are they with what it takes? And how much support do you need from them? Or is it like a very hands-off process that you kind of iron out by this point?
Yeah, I think, there's a very big disparity and quite a gap between those who know and understand and those who don't. And I think it really comes down to the age of those businesses or the size of those businesses. The ones that are larger businesses that have been around a while, a lot of them have hired the right people that have an understanding of these processes, or at least know the importance of them. They may not know how to get the work done, but they at least have an idea that they need to do it and the value of having it. I think there's a lot of, startup companies or smaller companies that really have no idea that maybe some of these things exist. So I think that also has to do with the sometimes the knowledge or the age of the business owner, how long they've been around. I mean, they could be in a really old business that's been very successful, and they just have not been brought into today's age of technology and what's available to help them. And there's a lot of old school people out there that have a hard time wrapping their head around this. And then you've got young guys coming out that are putting together extremely hugely successful e-commerce and all kinds of stuff, and they're in the digital age and they really understand and they get it. And even if they don't know how to implement it, they know that they need it. So to answer, really answer the question, it's all over the place, but it is something that we do. We have to educate our clients, and that's a big part of what we do. We have to educate them and explain to them, and oftentimes spoon feed them a little bit, because you can't overwhelm someone and show them the universe when they were just trying to see the sun. So it's baby steps, right? So you got to kind of understand your client, really understand what their needs are, what their priorities are, and what are they trying to accomplish. And for us, that's why it's really important and why we really just try to focus on working with clients on our agency side of the business. We really focus on working on clients that want to have a long-term relationship with us, that recognize that it's going to be a plan and a process to put that plan in place, and to get to from step A to Z doesn't happen in 1 month or 1 week. We're going to need multiple months and potentially multiple years to get to where we want to go. A lot of when we sell data, because another part of our big business is just really selling data, whether that be a file for marketing use or enhancing something, or just selling them leads on hand raisers of people that have come through our funnels that say, I would like to get some auto insurance. A lot of those businesses, typically, if they're buying data from us, they already have these processes in place. They're bigger companies. They already have someone inside that business that manages these processes, and they really understand it. So if someone's coming to us as, hey, I'm not really sure what the next steps are, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to get from where I am to where I want to go, but I want to go there, that's more of an approach that we take with a multiple month process of how to scale and grow their business, which oftentimes includes bringing data into the mix. But, we have to educate people at the end of the day.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. We actually just had, like a little cocktail networking event recently, about a couple of weeks here. And we spoke about, social advertising, and just how important it is to do the education component with clients. I think especially now, understanding that different business owners have different levels of understanding of these technologies out there, with the data collection, with everything to do with tools, CRMs, et cetera, and how everything is moving parts and connected. Our job as marketers or as service providers or as tech implementators, kind of whatever you do as an agency, right? You have to allocate some time into creating the education component with the client, right? And being a business advocate or a business, let's say, advisor as well, to where you obviously have to sit in and understand what are they looking to achieve. And as you very well said, like, take it one step at a time and construct the data and utilize the data for those purposes initially, and not overcomplicate it for them either, because otherwise they're not really going to understand the value of things. So the data is super important, because you cannot improve or you cannot measure, but it's also important that we simplify how that data is provided and presented to customers, so that it answers the questions that they ultimately want to know, and also to set the right expectations in terms of timelines and how things are accomplished. I like how you guys, for example, have like a 12-month pack, like a 12-month timeline that you set with customers, because oftentimes people want to win now. They want everything like right away. So it's good to set some expectations with customers in terms of how long a lot of these things can take, and that obviously even data collection itself as a process can be time consuming to establish and get done right. So there's still going to be a lot of trial and error. Like, we have our own tracking team that implements tracking for various different platforms. And oftentimes we have to be back and forth with the client, do some testing of lead submissions and things like that, just to make sure the process is very smooth. And so the education component with clients is a huge part of making sure that whatever data process you establish can be successful, and then tell the right story.
Yeah, I think one important thing about this educational process with clients as well is also a key element for your own data collection, because, and you were talking about this, Chip, in the previous question, if you're a well-established brand and people are interested in engaging with you, you're probably just going to get the forms and the data yourself, and it's going to be okay. But for most advertisers, it's really going to be about building trust. And I think you used the word community as well when you talked about Canada or network. But it's really going to be about that. This is the time where you want to make sure that if you have a newsletter, you're adding value, because that's going to be the key to collecting data. If you're sending things that are not creating value to customers, then that's when they opt out. And then that's where you don't get the data. And right now you might still get away with that, but in 5 or 10 years, you're going to have to heavily rely on that, on people trusting you, trusting your information, being that they're willing to accept, to engage with your brand and get data from you, because they trust that what you'll send will eventually give them some sort of added value. So I think that's also very important as well when you think of your own brand and how you interact with your customers. And even this educational piece is, you always have to try to add value beyond the main service that you provide. So you're also building this trust that would be fundamental in 5 or 10 years if you want people to give you their data and to be willing to engage with you in a way where you can use it for advertising or for anything else. So I think that's very important. That's one of the conversations we have with our customers nowadays. That's what we tell them. With COVID, we learned that the hard way ourselves. During the COVID, the hardest months, we spent a lot of time creating content for customers. Even though a lot of them weren't able to advertise or do anything with their business, we said, hey, let's just provide content to see how we can add value to them if we can't really run their campaigns. That gave us a huge boost with a lot of our partners. Said, hey, this is really helpful. And it built some trust that now we're capitalizing on, because now they come to us to learn about, things not just related to digital marketing, but their industry as well. So that's one key point for me as well that ties both with, the educational side of it and also the future of data, that I think it's important for all agency owners to understand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that, to your point, you got to create that audience who you're after. You have to create a community with them, right? I mean, especially with social media, you can't just be out there just pushing your product or service. You've got to add value. You got to educate people. You have to add value. And if you're not adding value to your audience or creating a community with them, then you're going to miss out. It's not going to stick long term. And I think that in a sea of brands, right? I mean, in today's world in digital marketing, I mean, there's so much competition. It's so easy to spin up the next thing that in order to be successful, you really have to set yourself apart, and just a shiny logo and a catchphrase is not really going to make it work, right? You're going to have to go deeper than that.
Yeah. And I think we're on time here, right, Frank? We could probably come on forever because we just love to talk.
Yes.
Yeah. But for the sake of kind of staying on track here with our viewers, Chip, I have one question which we've been asking all of our guests, and it's kind of the main point of our show, and that is, what is one valuable lesson that you've learned throughout your career that you'd like to pass on to our audience?
No pressure. A good one.
No pressure.
It's a good one.
And I can tell you the most valuable lesson that I would tell anybody as entrepreneur, business owner, anyone, is you're always going to need more money than you think you're going to need, and you got to be well capitalized. And that, so many, especially from marketing, all right? So marketing just doesn't happen, especially in today's age. You need to be very thoughtful, not only about what you're trying to sell, but how you're selling it and who you're selling it to, and be prepared to spend the money to A/B test, and you're going to have to burn money, okay? Marketing dollars in the beginning doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the ROI that you anticipate in the beginning. So be prepared to burn some money to do some A/B testing and try some things out. And I think you also, first and foremost, I always tell people this, first and foremost, you need to understand how much you can afford to pay to acquire a customer. Once you understand how much you can afford to acquire that customer, then you need to think about how many customers do you need to sell? Is it monthly or yearly or however you do? Then you drill down into your marketing budget by just that number. If I'm selling something for $5,000, can I afford $1,000 to acquire that customer? All right. And then I want to sell 100 of those customers a year. Well, there's your number of what your marketing budget's going to be. And then you got to test and test and test and see if your hypothesis is correct on what your cost per acquisition is going to be. And that is, I think, one of the most important lessons learned for me in operating businesses and doing startups. Be prepared to spend more money.
That's so important. Yeah, that's so important, so valuable, because we see so many people try to, create their own online store and sell things because they're being told all the time that it's easy and that they can get it done and that they're going to get rich quick, or at least they're going to make some good money in the short term. But a lot of people don't really understand that you do have to spend a lot of money, and you'll probably burn a lot of money the first couple of months or even years. And we don't hear that enough. That's to me, what you said is extremely valuable for anyone out there trying to start their own business, and to understand, because it's a key element into being able to get through those first months and then seeing the light at the end of the tunnel once you go through that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Dan, do you have anything else?
No, I was just gonna ask Chip. One thing we also ask our guests is obviously to share with our audience. Like, where can they find you? Anything you want to shout out on your side in terms of links, social media, websites, and anything like that.
Yeah, well, you can find me at Chip McGraw on social media. Just simply type in Chip McGraw on Instagram. Follow me there. Get some more tips and information about how to be successful in running, operating businesses and marketing them. You can also find us at McGrawNow.com, as well as on LinkedIn. Just look for McGraw Now or Chip McGraw.
Awesome, Frank. All you.
Awesome. No, I think we're past our time, but we always do this because these conversations are so fun to have and so engaging. Thank you, Chip, for joining us today. This was extremely fun.